A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book podcast brought to you by Punch Up Entertainment. I am your host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me as always, the Crimson Jack to my jolly, it is John Campbell.
Hey. Oh, Gargoni, we finally got out of the adaptation of A New Hope, and all I can say is it too late to go back?
Yes, it is far too late. We've crossed the Rubicon, John, and now we are into the staggering unknown that is still a late 70s comic in all the worst ways.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this, but overall, my reaction to this first issue coming out of it, and now that we're into comics continuity, is, yeah, it feels very comic booky, and I don't often mean this in a derogatory way, but I do here now, where it is like, man, we are instantly not in the hands of a blockbuster film story anymore.
Yes, correct. We are in the hands of people who have a vague, passing understanding of science fiction tropes and are trying to leverage those in every which way they can. And Roy Thomas going, I don't know, it's one of them sci-fi shoot-em-ups.
It's one of them sci-fi shoot-em-ups, and of course, I think something we'll keep it is always just like, and we can't move the plot too much.
No, we cannot.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at here for sure.
So yes, we are talking about Star Wars number 7 from Marvel Comics Group. This was released in January 1st, 1978, so we are now in the next year following the release of Star Wars, though still less than a year out from the release of the movie.
I call this one ASW, 1 year after Star Wars.
We've got our own Battle of Yavin timescale.
Yeah, and of course, that's the crazy thing to keep in mind about this. Is I'm thinking is I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you would be, but I think this is the first original story set in the Star Wars universe post the movie.
Because Splinter of the Mind's Eye wouldn't come out for a little while after this, so I think you're honestly correct. There might have been some stuff in, like, a Starlog magazine or something, like little bits of fiction here and there, but...
Story or something, but I think this is relatively the first new Star Wars story post the movie, which is... Oh, God, so disappointing.
Yes, because this issue is, of course, written still by Roy Thomas, though Howard Chaykin also does have a writing credit on Marvel Unlimited, which is how we're reading these, but he is also, Howard Chaykin also being the penciler, with Frank Springer being the inker, Carl Gafford being the colorist, and Joe Rosen on letters.
Yeah, Chaykin here is credited as artist/co-plotter.
Mm-hmm. Which and by isn't the way, unusual in Marvel Comics at the time.
No, I just had to look this up. It's February 12th of 78 that Splinter of the Mind's Eye comes out. So yeah.
Okay.
This beat this by like a month.
Mm-hmm. And the only other thing I want to check is when the West End Games Star Wars book came out. Because I believe, that isn't until 87, so.
Well, and this is also a time, as we've talked about, when like ancillary material and merchandise was not hot on the... I mean, now we're to the point where the comics, the toys, and everything are out a month or two before the movie. But this is a time when like the merchandising and tie-in stuff was not part of the game plan of a release. So everything we're looking at is playing catch-up of, man, there's demand, we better supply it.
Right, exactly. So every story we're seeing now until basically within a year of this is when we start getting the deluge of like toys and games and board games and everything coming out with Star Wars.
The other big thing, of course, 1978 gives us is the holiday special.
You're not wrong.
I'm just talking about in this time when there's only the one movie. Mm-hmm. The stuff you're getting are this comic, Alan Dean Foster, Splinter the Mind's Eye, and that holiday special. And then, yeah, some bits and bobs of short fiction here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a
And
weird...
most of that is a little bit better than fan fiction.
Yeah. It's, I mean, that's so, but honestly, this comic's not much better than fan fiction.
Well, we'll get into it because yeah, let's start out here with the cover because who boy, right off the bat, talk about like the inconsistency of art and strap in for the inconsistency of art over the next few issues here.
If you thought it was bad in the adaptation, Jesus. Yeah, right off the bat, you're just like, this is Star Wars? This is Star Wars? Okay.
No, it's Man with the Golden Gun, as we can see that Han Solo is now the Man with the Golden Gun.
What is this gun, both in its gold and what is this design? I mean, it is... they had whatever working, reference they had on the adaptation, but now that we're into original stuff, it just is Flash Gordon now.
Oh, and we'll talk about some of the Flash Gordon-y stuff in this issue specifically, in the next couple of issues, honestly, but there's some, like, heavy, they only have a few references for sci-fi kind of mentality going into the design of this. There is no established look, quote-unquote, for Star Wars. We have the one movie, and so everything else beyond that is just guesswork.
And it's so lazy. There's no attempt to do any real designs. It is just like stock sci-fi stuff, and you can see that right here with this cover. Look at these aliens around Han and Chewie. Who is that guy back there in the back? Who is that? That Chewie got by the shirt.
Some fish-headed guy with some really colorful clothing. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, everything is rainbow colored in these things, and then there's in Chewie's other hand is a dead lizard guy.
Yeah, I mean, he might not be dead. We don't know. But yeah, it's not looking great.
At a black mouth and eyes rolled up. He's in trouble, at the very least. Let's say that. And Han is in a weird... Oh, Han's crouched pose is really weird. How high that knee up is.
You know what this reminded me of immediately is that ridiculously unnecessary spin move shot from Book of Boba Fett when one of the motor kids, I forget their name, does the spin move and the lean down and the shoot.
Yeah, it does have that look to it. And he's shooting there. We see a wanted poster, which I love. Wanted, dead or alive, Han Solo and Chewbacca, the Wookiee.
Just in case you forgot.
Well, the Marvel books always refer to him as Chewbacca the Wookiee.
And to be fair, a lot of stuff from around this era also referred to him as Chewbacca the Wookiee. It was all one name.
Well, I think it's also, I think it's all one name, and I think they want to get the word Wookiee out there, like it's one of those things. It's like, because I do think Wookiee is one of the, like, Star Wars alien races no matter your level of fandom, you have a general cursory knowledge of as a Star Wars alien race name.
Yeah, Wookiee is up there with like Klingon and Vulcan in terms of just like if you were asked a general population like, hey, name an alien race from a movie or TV property, those are like three of the big ones you could go to.
Exactly. And so Han, and then all new Han Solo and Chewbacca on a world the law forgot. We totally forgot about that planet, says the law.
And the slug line above the Star Wars logo, at last, beyond the movie, beyond the galaxy. I mean, in point of fact, they're still in the galaxy, so I don't know how that fits, but whatever.
The continuing Marvel Comics covers that promise things the book doesn't deliver. And Luke Skywalker, though, still... I just love that Luke Skywalker is still the logo, and immediately they're like, yeah, let's get away from him.
Yeah, because we go to our first page, and this is us leaving Leia and Luke behind pretty dang quick as we come in on that dumb Star Wars logo they still got at the top with the stars and the A's.
They're still using this crap.
I mean, again, there's we don't have the establishment of what is the look of Star Wars yet, so here we are.
Right, but the cover has a pretty close approximation of the movie logo, and then here, so far from it. But yes, I also like, this is where it says, continuing the saga begun in the film by George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. This is it, folks. Continuity.
New planets and new perils.
Baby.
Yeah.
This is canon. No, it's
And
not, because immediately Empire Strikes Back will refute this opening scene.
right, because immediately we have Han Solo leaving, saying, "Look, I'm just a lonely star hopper making his way in the galaxy." They keep using the term star hopper through this.
I
So
will. I was gonna say, not something I hear used a lot in Star Wars, and they use it so much in this comic.
yeah, but Leia and Luke are trying to convince Han to stay and help the rebellion, and Han's like, "Nah, I got a price on my head. I gotta go pay it off." Which is honestly the exact same scene from the beginning of Empire.
It's well, and the thing I like in Empire is it's implied it's what, 2 years between
Roughly, yeah.
ish, and the whole thing is he's always talking about leaving, but he hasn't, which I always thought was a good thing. But I also like, this is not Han at all. And once again, everything we say, look, we know the response is they don't know what's going to happen in the movies, and they don't have, of course, what we know. We know these characters backwards and forwards, but there is something so weird about Han going, "Oh, gee, I wish I could help. I just sure love the rebellion." You're like, "Oh, that's not exactly his attitude." There's so much talk about, like, well, Chewie, we really got to go pay Jabba the Hutt, but I sure wish I was back fighting for the rebellion I totally believe in.
Well, John, don't you remember all those classic lines where Han says, "And that's a promise from Han Solo, me, who's speaking in the third person."
That made me laugh so much reading this last night. And that's a promise from old Han Solo. And also, stop sniveling, R2. R2 is blooping out tears here, apparently. That Master... You'll see Master Solo again.
This is the most garbage can looking R2-D2 I've seen in quite some time. Other than the garbage can painted to look like R2-D2 that I have seen in the past.
This was the case they cannot get the proportions or shape of R2-D2 in this comic. Like, they can't figure out exactly how, okay, it's a dome and it's a thing. It's all just like...
His leg is missing in this page. We see like a piece of his shoulder, but then it just stops halfway down his torso.
That's enough. That's enough. Whatever. Also, love the double hand clutch on Luke. Very romantic.
Oh, look.
Got his hands like, you listen, buddy. I love you.
In a different timeline, there is a thruple situation happening here.
I think so. And you can really tell this because of the way Chewie is off in the shadows over here, trying his best to get a Gronk in.
Look, Chewie is just the parental figure standing next to the minivan while the kids in high school are saying goodbye to each other. And the parent near the minivan is going, "Okay, I get it, your emotions, you're young, whatever, but we have to get to dinner."
The way Chewie is drawn with his arms clasped behind his back, like, yep, right, Gronk.
Yeah. So, of course, they can't convince him to stay. Han, with his page boy haircut here, has to immediately leave.
Han's hair is all over. Just Han's face, Han's hair, and Chewbacca. Boy, the character designs. Like I said, regardless of likeness to actors, how about consistency within a comic?
Well, you'll notice that over the last couple of issues, one of the biggest inconsistencies between creative teams has been the inker. And that can make such a huge difference when it comes to especially the fine detail on character work in comics.
Well, I think that's a big reason why today, and it's not entirely, but I would say most of the time, pencilers are inking their own stuff these days. I think for that reason, which is that you can drastically change pencils with ink. So the idea of wanting to do that yourself makes sense. So here goes the Millennium Falcon, looking pretty wonky in this first panel there. That's not exactly right to me.
I mean, we've seen the Millennium Falcon change shape and consistency basically every other panel it's in. And yeah, the weird little, like, tin can welded to the side where the bridge is supposed to be is somewhat disconcerting. Also, again, they clearly have no idea what the inside of the ship is supposed to look like. At least Howard Chaykin doesn't. So when we have speech bubbles coming from the right side of the ship when the left side of the ship is where the bridge is, it immediately makes me go, like, you have no idea where people are supposed to be sitting in this thing.
Not at all. And just look at the two panels in the middle here. Look at the radically different faces on Han Solo just between those two panels.
Oh, and Chewie for that matter. His nose changes shape.
They're completely different characters when you go from panel to panel. It's insane to me.
Yeah, and we get a good garunk and then an irk from Chewbacca as he's conversing with Han here.
This issue gives us a lot of Chewie noises. And there's a lot of there's so much of this in this issue of like, remember Chewie, how we owe money to Jabba the Hutt?
Hutt with one T in this.
I did notice that as well. A little weird. Get a smuggling czar on your tail, old buddy, and even a galactic war won't save you.
I like that line.
Also, but even more, he'd have us both zapped by one of his blaster happy bongos.
Yeah, if there's one thing we know about. Also, in this third panel here, is it just me or does Han look irrevocably like Rick Trail here?
He really does. He really does.
Just with like the stony romance comic face and the thumbs up and the like, well, we better go deal with these cocaine smugglers on the trail.
Yeah.
Which, yes, that's a thing that happened in Rick Trail.
And a doofy expression on Chewie's face too. They both look so weird in that second panel there on the page, in the middle there, because Chewie's going like, "Irk."
Well, I mean, he looks equally weird in this second panel here, where his face, again, radically different, hairstyle completely different, and he's got this kind of like boyish, big-eyed Prince Valiant look when he says, yeah, I know, after all the battle action, I'd give away my star spurs to stay here and help Princess Leia regroup the rebels.
Battle action, star spurs? What the hell are you talking about, Thomas? My star spurs. I'm a pirate and a cowboy, but I'm also in space. Do you follow?
Are you keeping up with the vibe we're putting out here?
A little bit of everything. Hello, I'm the most popular character in that new hot movie. Let's talk about this last three panels of just things they're passing by in hyperspace.
Yeah, again, no real idea of how hyperspace works at this point, other than... Yeah. But, I mean, here's an interesting thing, though. The only scenes we've seen of hyperspace thus far are in the original movie, so we still already have the blurred stars and the warping blue tunnel as, like, the visual for hyperspace.
It's instantly iconic in that movie. Like,
and we haven't seen it once in these comics, which is interesting.
No. And at this point, once again... Now it's 78, and you're telling me that the majority of the people working on this, or at least editorial, haven't seen the movie enough to be able to go, it should look like this?
Apparently not.
I guess not.
I do kind of like the effect of the streak behind the Millennium Falcon being the last of the narration here as they're passing by different things. In a different sci-fi book, I think that could be effective. In this, it's confusing and weird.
I also wish it was more distinctly the streak and not this weird bubble around the Falcon, like it was coming out of the exhaust. But
yeah.
I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, what are these little weird creatures sitting here on this planet? And then there's like a dome floating city, and then...
It's space stuff, John. Don't worry about it.
That's the whole book, is their space stuff. Don't worry about it.
Hey, speaking of space stuff, let's go to the next page where it's a cruiser that's been abandoned. And the only way we can really know that is because of the dialogue, because the art is indecipherable.
Oh, this is a huge pet peeve of mine, which is it's all images of spaceships with tons of word bubbles coming from the spaceships. God, that is bad visual storytelling, guys.
Because, like...
Some kind of cruiser.
Yeah. They want to imply that there's this big cruiser just powered down in the middle of nowhere space, which, if they were in hyperspace, why would they suddenly run into it? Don't worry about it. And so we're coming across this cruiser. They're not going fast enough, assuming that this hyperspace in the comics works different than the hyperspace in the movies, which we have to assume at this point.
Well, we've been shown that it has. I mean, just our visuals are radically different.
He's going at hyper speed, whatever that is in this.
Yeah.
which is fast enough to move through interplanetary distances without time dilation causing everything to go fucky.
Mm-hmm.
But slow enough that we can see something out the window.
Yeah. Very weird.
Don't worry
Very
about it. It's space
Yeah.
stuff.
Scope shows it's drifting. Could be a Darrow. And then, oh my god, this Chewie close-up? What is this? What is that?
Well, look, that's his Haru face, John. You can't be denying his Haru face.
Haru is how I imagine that should be said.
Yeah, it's a weird look on Chewie with the big eyes and the wide, almost like minstrelly mouth that's going on there. I don't like it. Whatever it is.
Everything about it is wrong. But this might just be Space Pirates.
Now, let's be clear about one thing. If there is something, a two-word combination that Mike Gargoni loves above all things, it is Space Pirate.
Well, Space Pirates rule, man. The one thing that is we've talked before about the great movie Ad Astra and how much we love that movie has moon pirates.
Mm-hmm. And that's also a good combination of words.
That's a good combination of words here. But I will say, we're about to flip the page. These Space Pirates very much disappoint.
So,
Starjammers, they are not, sir.
Here is what we get, is on this next page here, we have a plethora of small fighter craft coming after the Millennium Falcon.
Which are all very much Flash Gordon ship designs, right?
I was gonna say Flash Gordon is very clearly what we're leaning into, and boy, when we get a look at these space pirates, it's gonna be real clear.
Yeah.
but the spaceship designs here are so like 50s retro futurist George Jetson looking spacecraft.
They start from the rocket ship design and then build from there.
Right. And so you have the ship that vaguely looks like a Star Destroyer in this cruiser here in the triangular design. And then you have the Millennium Falcon. And those are pretty Star Warsy. Everything else on this page, barring the vaguest outline of a TIE fighter in the top right corner of this first panel,
which also makes no sense. But
all of these other ships are from a different sci-fi setting.
Completely. And it was so disconcerting when you turn that page to go, Star Wars? Because, I mean, once again, especially now, we have such easily identifiable iconography that, as we're talking about, not only ships we know from Star Wars, but just types of ships that are in Star Wars. You can show me a new ship design, and I would go, that feels of the Star Wars world.
Right. And stuff that doesn't is immediately identifiable. Like this big rocket ship up here looks like something out of Challengers of the Unknown.
It really does. Yeah. And I love that stuff in its place. It's just not Star Wars. And then immediately we're just retreading the first movie, aren't we? By pulling in the Millennium Falcon into the tractor beam of this cruiser, very much like the blockade ship at the beginning of the first movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get another Rick Trail Han Solo here, him raising his fists.
You're not as mad as I am, Chewie, and you can tell he's mad. Look at him.
Bald fist, scrunchy face, his jaw thrusting outward.
Ooh, them space pirates. Oh.
Also, there's a lot of swallowing in the dialogue here. She's swallowing us up for boarding. To be swallowed by the Death Star was one thing, but space pirates? Oh, I feel ashamed of myself.
Han Solo will not be swallowed, folks. Put that on the record.
Yeah, we'll put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah. No, it's actually something I've noticed throughout Thomas's writing is his repetition of words is infuriating for a professional writer to be that bad and just it's like, choose other words, man.
Also, we get this bit in the last panel where we talk about how the space pirate that's capturing him has been around. They've got all sorts of weird fighter craft. It's a hodgepodge of an armada, and that's a cool idea. Somebody that's just collected scraps and bits and pieces, and it's something we'll see explored in later Star Wars books as well, of scavengers who have kind of scrapped a bunch of stuff from across the galaxy.
Thomas's idea of the space pirates is not bad. However, the look of them terrible, and their use in this hilarious.
It is really just to like set the clock back on the story, right? That's the only
Yep.
purpose this whole sequence serves.
Because let's go to the next page and meet our scallywags, including one of
boy.
these guys. I mean, a couple of these guys are literal space pirates. This guy here with the bandana and the cutlass.
Which would have been a funny visual gag on its own. The idea like, oh, they're space pirates and one of them's literally a Yahar me buckos style of pirate is pretty funny if it's never addressed. But the fact that the captioning calls it out makes it go, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
They're acknowledging that this is as stupid as it looks.
Ray guns glitter next to archaic cutlasses is the description. Also ray guns in a Star Wars book.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really come into the nomenclature of blasters just yet. We'll hear it here and there, but for the most part, they use the term laser gun, ray gun, blaster kind of interchangeably.
But yeah, I'll take laser. Ray gun is just so 50s Flash Gordon-y. I'll get my ray gun, Dale.
But speaking of Flash Gordon, the look of this main pirate guy, the guy we will eventually learn is named Crimson Jack,
whose main crime is his aversion to pants.
Look, there is a certain style of costume that evolved in the 60s and 70s for comic book characters that involves a leotard that stops at the top of the thigh and at the collar of the shoulder and extends no further in either direction.
He's been doing a lot of cycling and he wants to show it off, folks.
This is a very similar costume to Colossus from the X-Men for the longest time.
Yeah. Well, and we're definitely doing the Buccaneer boots, which is a very Marvel design.
Oh yeah, 100%. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what he'll do as he's walking down. This is the Man in Black, as he is called. We also have a random stormtrooper in there, which, again, is called out by the captioning, making it even more of a, like, non sequitur.
There is even the white stoic armor of a fallen stormtrooper, strangely out of place.
And if the art had conveyed... If the art had conveyed this idea that the stormtrooper armor had been like scavenged, so we see like it like piecemeal on a pirate, that's one thing. But it's just a random stormtrooper in the art.
I think ditch the helmet and just show that he's wearing like what we would see later, like parts of the body armor, because you do see that in some Star Wars stuff where they've like taken a chest plate or some shoulder pads or something. Yeah. But here it's just a guy who found a fully intact stormtrooper armor and he goes, "Yeah, I'm wearing that all the time, baby."
Yeah.
Because we know it's such good armor, too.
Oh, it's... Yeah. So, this second panel Han Solo face. He's got some Shaggy from Scooby-Doo vibes here. Also, his hair is, like, curling now. Is that a thing Han Solo has ever had?
Han's hair is all over the place in this. It is... and another... It really is becoming his catchphrase. Gronk.
I mean, look, we're never going to get away from Gronk, I think.
And what is they've got, it's sort of Chewie's bowcaster, but is this like a pistol version of it?
Chewie's gun changes as much as Han and Chewie's face does in the next few issues. There's no consistency to the type of gear he's carrying.
Which is so weird because Chewie's bowcaster is basically... just a crossbow in design, essentially, right? Like it shouldn't be that hard to draw. I don't know why they can't. But here it looks like one of those like little pistol crossbows.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a cut to someone holding a gun on the. That is a horrible panel. That is just the gun. And we have no idea who's holding it.
Yeah, we get dialogue and a blue and red picture of somebody holding a gun, and
then when we meet the person who's holding it, she is a character out of a Jean-Luc Godard movie
with the beret and the high necked shirt, and
Yeah, she is a total like European mod girl of the 1960s.
And her
Just
name
with
is. How did you say that in your head? Because I said it as Jolly because I thought it was a pirate pun.
yeah, I took it as Jolly too. I mean, I guess
Okay.
one could make it more spacey and call it like Jolly or something like that, but I think it is Jolly. I'm not giving too much credit to Roy Thomas here for his creation of characters. I mean,
Right.
Crimson Jack doesn't really seem like much of a Star Wars character either.
He could just like not dressed and acting like this.
Haha!
Yeah. Because
Still a
years later in the sequel trilogy, we'll get the Crimson Corsair, who is like a really cool character design, and he has got like an interesting backstory in a series of short books, which of course he does. But he's in one scene in The Force Awakens.
I was gonna say, you've described every Star Wars character who has an interesting backstory in a series of books.
I know, but he at least like fits and is of a piece
Yeah,
for
well,
the world.
Space pirates and scoundrels and scavengers and stuff is part of Star Wars. It's just these ones are so goofy.
Yeah, Hondo Onaka, this guy is not.
No.
I love me some Hondo though.
Oh, he's great. Still a joker, eh? Solo. I imagined all of his dialogue was said like this.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad he didn't force you to kill him. I'd hate to have to bury the illustrious Han Solo.
His expressions on his face are indicating that he's like, I'm a space pirate. Oh yes. Yeah, this is like a Will Ferrell SNL sketch of a Star Wars space pirate. You know?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jolly, ever bloodthirsty, is like, we've wasted enough time, Captain. Let me blast a hole in him.
Also, I mean, look, I'm not here for Howard Chaykin's. I'm not here to bag on his anatomy drawings. But I mean, maybe she's an alien, but those are not the shape of human breasts.
No, they're very pointy.
Yeah, very conical.
Also, is it just me, or did her gun turn into a revolver in that last panel?
it has slowly been evolving into a revolver until it's just a six gun.
So yeah,
Crimson. That's true. Go to the next page. It's even more revolvery.
Oh yeah. So yes, Crimson Jack is accosting Han Solo here. He and his pirate crew has captured him and is taking all the money they just got from the rebellion, so that Han is now back at square one.
This is hilariously bad storytelling.
Yes. We invent a series of characters for the sole purpose of rolling the characters back to a position where you'd think if he just got utterly robbed, why not just head back to the rebels? Because he wanted to stay to begin with, if not for all of his money.
Made no sense to me. And especially if Jabba the Hutt is going to come after you, wouldn't having the rebel army with you help that?
You would think. You would think.
But also, I mean, so here's the thing. If you look at this, because I'm going, oh, okay, it's going to be Han and Chewie versus space pirates. That's the story of this issue. The space pirates are in 3 pages and then peace out.
And make up and they make up a weird reason for not killing Han and Chewie, which is Crimson Jack saying, but if we kill them, we won't be able to steal from them again later.
Yeah, someday they'll probably get some more cargo that we'll take. What? Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, no. Crimson Jack is... One day soon we may again encounter Mr. Solo and his furry friend, and when they have another interesting cargo. That will hardly be true if we eliminate them, will it? Let's go, lads.
Let's go, lads! Yeah, that's actually, speaking of Flash Gordon, I almost want it to be Brian Blessed from that, like, Gordon's alive like this guy, right? But I also love something you don't see in comics, which is something a person might say, but this made me laugh, is the 2 jollies, but one in bold here. Like he's going, jolly. Jolly. You don't see that a lot in word bubble writing in comics because it's weird. It's weird to try to put like naturalistic patter of conversation in there. Easy to tell you're still new at this piracy game. This is what we do, baby.
I'm hip. I'm with it. You're still new at this piracy bag, doll.
I know. I kind of want a spin-off about these very hip and cool space pirates and his weird crew of people. There was a guy earlier you saw in the background who had a fez on. Like, what?
I'm gonna back it up a little bit. Oh yeah, in the first panel of them coming onto the ship, there's
There's
the
a guy
guy
in the
with the
back.
vest with the eye patch. Behind him is a dude with a fez. We've got this bald guy with the earring and shoulder pads, and the straight up buccaneer.
Yep. It's a weird gang, man. It's the most lovable gang of rapscallions the galaxy's ever seen.
I'll say this much for Roy Thomas. In 3 pages, he has managed to create a concoction of like weird little side characters that I am intrigued about, because there's this whole backstory about this bloodthirsty lass named Jolly who's new to the pirate game, but Crimson Jack has taken her under his wing for some reason. There's a lot of implied backstory here.
And Jack famously never kills anyone. It's his bag, baby.
Why they call me Crimson Jack? Well, it's mostly the beard, because I dress in black and I never spill any blood.
That's right. All right. Let's go, Rob. Let's go check back. His whole attitude is, let's go check back in with some other people we've robbed in the past to see if they got any new cargo we can steal. We just keep robbing from like the same 5 guys.
So, again, there's the whole issue of like, how on earth did the Millennium Falcon even like stop to see these guys when moving at hyperspeed? Let's not worry about it.
No, but it's time to run to everyone's favorite planet of Aduba 3.
Yeah,
which
because
is
Han Solo here in this last panel on this page says, without that treasure, Jabba will soon have a price on our heads that'll make us the target of every bounty hunter on this side of Aquila. I like the name drop of Aquila because it's a planet from Star Wars, but it's never really readdressed here.
Ready to have a bounty on their head?
And that's what I was going to say, is
No.
they already have a price on their head. How does this change anything?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. They're just back to where they were at the beginning of Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. But
Speaking
anyway,
of the
they're gonna-
beginning of Star Wars, Aduba
Oh.
3, like you said,
it's just Tatooine.
it might as well be. Yeah.
I don't know why they don't. Well, I guess they don't go to Tatooine because that's where Jabba is. So instead, we'll just go to the off-brand Tatooine.
This is Tatooine at home. Yeah.
Oh my god. So they land here, and he's trying. But even his description of it is very much like it's Mos Eisley, but not right. Like he backstory about it was the site of a chromium rush, which turned out to be largely false. I mean, he's trying to give it this backwater western kind of thing, right? About like Deadwood. They said there was gold, but then there wasn't as much as
Well,
But
and
who
we'll see in the next couple of issues that this is going to quickly become a Magnificent Seven riff. So we've got to start things off on the right foot of, by the way, this is a Western.
Yeah, he is. Roy Thomas has figured out. Once again, he's leaned hard into cowboys and pirates, is what he took from Star Wars.
Which
so
isn't necessarily the wrong thing to take from Star Wars, but
It's not. It's just he's literally doing cowboys and pirates. He's not doing
yes.
Star Wars inspired by those things. So they walk into this totally desolate town, and they even make a comment on it. And by the way, anytime there's a two-part Chewie sound, I always wanted to be going, "Garunk."
Yeah. Is it just me, or is that the Statue of Liberty sticking out of the sand in the background of
It
that third
really
panel?
looks like it there, man. Oh, shit. Jaken accidentally started drawing a Planet of the Apes book. Uh-oh.
Whoops.
Never, yeah. Which space thing is this? Yeah. So they go up here, and there's trouble with a priest on a bantha.
Well,
That's what
they
the idea of why not. Once again, it's just speaking to the lack of why not make a new thing. Why is it also just a bantha again?
it's also very much not a bantha based on how it's drawn. So
Well, yeah, they took a word from the movie, and
yeah. So what I really dislike about this scene here is as they're walking into this very much not Mos Eisley, they're doing it under the idea that they're running here so that they can hide out from Jabba the Hutt's bounty hunters, right?
right.
but they've also got this secondary plan of we need to find a little job here and there to make some money. So let's go to a place that is desolate and famous for being a bust where it comes to resources to make some cash.
Nobody said Han Solo was a good criminal.
But also, this last panel is so guilty of telling and not showing. Because
Oh my god.
what Han is saying about this bug guy being on a bantha, being accosted by a crowd, is like the art conveys a mob of people around a giant fat goat, and there is a figure on top of that goat, but the fact that it's insect-like or that the mob is angry at them, it's
And even calling it a figure is generous. It's a blob basically on top of a thing. Also, can we talk about the fact that Han Solo was raised some form of Christian? Because I shouldn't have skipped so much Sunday school as a kid. What?
the fact that Sunday is a thing in a galaxy far, far away, the idea that there would be school on there, the idea that it would have some kind of religious connotation.
Yeah, the idea that it's church as we know it.
Uh-huh.
Like, well, because I do think at this point although he does say Corellian, so but it does just sort of seem like, well, he's kind of an Earth man, though, right?
John, you don't know about the Corellian Episcopal faith?
And also, this very human hand that they have Chewbacca that they just paint brown and put some hairlines on.
Yeah, that was...
Come
also,
on.
the scale here is so bizarre because...
It's so weird.
Yeah, they're trying to do some forced perspective stuff and it's just not working.
No, man, I don't think Chaykin looks back on this fondly. Well, here comes... Oh, my God. Get ready, folks, for... Not much in the way of alien design, at least up front here. It's more just weird-looking guys that we've colored strangely.
Yeah, well, there's that one spiky dude in the bottom right of this first panel
That's
here.
the weird thing. And then, man, there's a ring wraith back there behind them.
Well, look, you gotta have a hooded guy in a cloak, and he's just a really tall Jawa. He's just a giant Jawa. It's fine.
Ostracized for my height from the Jawas.
Utini.
It's a glandular issue. So yeah, everybody's real mad. Clother, no, pull that buggy down from there. He ain't putting no Borgs in our mount. Now, as a Star Trek fan, I hear somebody tossing around the word Borg.
Yeah, so this is going to be, it turns out, a very special issue of Star Wars that teaches us about racism.
Mm-hmm.
And this purple guy up here with the green vest is about as racist as we can get by calling him Buggy and referring to Borgs. And
just look at the expression on his face. That's a man who's actively saying some slurs right now.
Yeah. And nobody in the crowd seems to have a problem with that other than Han and Chewie.
Mm-hmm. But weirdly, one of the Persians from 300 is behind him, glaring. Yeah. So here's this guy that they're after, but Buggy ain't having it, man.
Yeah, this insectoid person, which when we say insectoid, we really mean just he's got a bug-like face. He still has 2 arms and 2 legs, so
yeah,
calling him insect-like actually is a misnomer.
He's bug-like. He's got like Firefly's helmet from Batman is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it looks like a guy wearing a mask with bug eyes, not an actual bug creature.
And then he's still got the same number of fingers, and he's fighting with a double-sided spear thing, and he's wearing some big purple robes.
It's very weird, once again, that they are so prejudiced against this guy when they're just a weird hodgepodge of alien people.
Oh, yeah, but at least they're not dragging around a cyborg trying to bury him where all the regular folk are being buried.
But I do want to talk about this last panel where we have a bunch of alien designs, including a guy who appears to be wearing some sort of beaver mascot head.
Yeah, and there's this little purple guy in a jumpsuit, and the guy behind him, the big purple guy, appears to just be wearing a floaty around his waist.
Yeah, but keen-eyed viewers will note that is that Nazi that Indiana Jones fights by the plane from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, it's true.
He worked a lot. And then there's just a green kind of, I don't know, was he have scales or something? There's not a lot of definition, but he's over on the right side going.
I think he's the same green guy from the top panel with the spiky head. It's just that the top of his head's kind of clipped off by the gutter.
I think you're right. Yeah, and Chewie's equivalent of going, "Let's all knock this off," is Gronk.
So
they default to Gronk a lot.
Well, Gronk is the default Chewie noise, as we all know. That's the sound he makes. That's how you write it phonetically, right?
I remember having the talking Chewie toy as a kid, and you push a button, he goes Gronk. Oh, Chewbacca, you card.
These next few panels are absolutely implying a lot of motion that they don't show, which is a little frustrating. So we see in this first panel, the captioning saying the bug gets down off the insect, but before he can speak, one of the angry crowd seeks to lay a hand on him, and so the bug strikes back. However, before he can remount his huge beast of burden, he is grappled by the crowd. And Han decides to join the fray.
But look at his bouncing hair. In that, talking about Prince Valiant cut on Han Solo. His hair grew so much between panels.
Can we talk about how square his jaw is in the first panel?
Yep.
It is quite literally rectangular.
And it's also, but he's got these very sharp cheekbones and like sunken in cheeks. He kind of has a Clint Eastwood face.
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, they're going for the cowboy thing.
It's just like, or you could make him look like, I don't know, Harrison Ford, maybe?
Can't have that. That would be hard and require time and detail.
Can't do that. Let's go to the next page here, and more action as Han is tossing this blue-yellow colored guy.
Yeah, he looks like a Pokemon.
But I really want to talk about what happened to Chewbacca's face in this panel.
I don't think that's Chewbacca. I think for a brief moment in time, he is replaced by the Cyclopean hairy monster from a Ray Harryhausen film. And
it absolutely is what it looks like.
I'm trying to remember which 50s sci-fi movie has the weird, giant, hairy space monster with the robot head. It's an MST3K. I'm totally blanking on it, though. Yeah. But that's what Chewbacca looks like here.
He looks like that. He looks like a villain who'd be on like a Twilight Zone or something from that era for sure. That's like, and you're just like, what happened, man? Did like his pen fall out of his hand, or Howard Chaykin like fell down while drawing this and still turned it in or something? It's like he just went crazy here. But this also is our first look at the dead cyborg in his glass coffin.
Yeah. So they're beating up all the crowd and trying to rescue this bug guy. Han Solo tries to get him back up, and they make up some space language for Padre and my son.
And then Para is the one for Padre. And then Roy Thomas goes, and I'm going to have Han say it in every single line I give him from now on. He keeps saying Para so much.
Yeah, and this is just Roy Thomas making stuff up because he's not allowed to write Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it says Para, and then the bug guy goes, "Yes, my fi,"
which is High Galactic for male child. High Galactic will kind of be a language in Star Wars canon at some point, but it's not really used all that much. Basic is usually the language that everyone speaks.
Yeah. And boy, everybody backs off because they're afraid of Chewie because he's going, grrr!
I do like the line, if there's a man-like alien anywhere in the galaxy that can take on an angry Wookiee and live to tell the tale, I've never seen him.
And that's a promise from old Han Solo.
I just like the phrase, man-like alien.
Yeah, one of those man-like aliens. Now, there's a few non-man-like aliens that are good for it, but
yeah, sure, of course.
So here, let's talk about, we go to the next page here, and basically, we find out that these people don't like
cyborgs,
and so they don't want them buried around here.
Before we get into that, I want to address. So look at the bantha at the top of this page here, and how it looks like a Dr. Seuss animal.
Yeah, he's got a little too much life in his face to be a bantha to me.
Go to the page just before it. Go back to the last page where we see
Yeah.
the bantha again at the top panel.
Oh, he doesn't look anything like that at all.
Completely different art. And it still looks like a Dr. Seuss character, still like kind of with a weird face to it and like with the curling horns, but a completely different beast than what we see in the very next page.
Yep.
It's wild how different the art is between those two creatures.
And basically what happens is Han Solo agrees to bury this cyborg guy for the loose bag of coins that he had on him.
He had a small sack of coins on his person when he died. By tradition, it belongs to the one who buries him.
Borg, old buddy, you just bought yourself a last resting place.
So the idea that people are so racist against cyborgs is that because they're part droid seems to be the implication here, and that
I think
because they're part droid, they don't deserve a proper burial of any sort.
right.
This
is worthy of an issue of a Star Wars comic.
I mean, look, the idea that somebody has replaced themselves with machine parts is an interesting sci-fi concept that has been done since time immemorial.
And Star Wars has done stuff with that. There's interesting stories to be told with that, no question.
And the idea that other quote-unquote normal folk, however you define that, would discriminate against somebody who like changes and like makes their parts of their body artificial is, again, a classic piece of storytelling that even moves beyond science fiction into people discriminating against folks with disabilities and people with like replacement limbs and stuff. Happens all the time.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's such a good, easy parallel to make.
Right, absolutely. But just seeing Han Solo and introducing all of these concepts suddenly into Star Wars, because there were no cyborgs in Star Wars at this point.
We don't yet know that Darth Vader is, but yes, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, as far as we know, he's a robot.
Yeah, there's a line, maybe it's in the next season, I don't know, but there's talk about Darth Vader is like that armored son of a bitch or whatever, you know. Yeah, what does Han Solo think Darth Vader is at this point? I have questions. But yeah, anyway, so Han mounts this, well, we'll keep calling it Bantha because that's what they say. And he's like, "That's right, everybody, back off. I'm gonna go bury this robot man."
Also, Han saying, Chewie, spacers are a weird lot. Isn't he referring to himself here? I would define Han Solo as a spacer.
I know. I don't know what. Yeah, I had this question reading it last night too. I'm going, so what is a spacer then?
Because all these people live here, right? So
yeah,
if anything, he's the spacer and they're townies.
Yeah, the guy who's bounding about the galaxy with his Wookiee best pal seems more like a spacer to me. But anyway, let's head out of here as this colorful group of aliens is just like, whatever, man. Let's start throwing.
We're gonna throw some. They throw some rocks at him.
Yeah, it's just the way they're colored. They look like they're throwing limes at him.
Yeah, it's fair. Because as they start moving out of town,
scoundrel.
I like the term. Go back to where you came from, you dirty Borg licker. I was like, wow, that sounds real nasty, even though it has no real place in reality.
It sure does, though. But Chewie's real upset. I also love Han going, ow! And Chewie going, Nurk!
Well, that's the traditional Shriwook pain sound is Nurk.
Grarg. Easy, Chewie. You may be as strong as a whole freighter load of swamp cats. Swamp when they're smuggling in the bayou.
Look, swamp cats are the lesser-known cousins of the Thundercats.
Swamp cats. We lasted 3 episodes. Ulp? Oh, the Ulp also made me laugh last night when he goes, Ulp? When this... by the way, this thing grabbing Han Solo... Folks, yes, that is a prehistoric man from 2001: A Space Odyssey. No.
See, I thought it was Cheetah from Tarzan.
Yeah, that's a common mistake. They're always up for the same parts. Uh, no, and this close up of angry Han Solo or whoever this man is.
Yeah, I don't know. His eyes have shifted apart and his eyebrows are suddenly huge, and yeah, I don't know. But they get dragged into a melee and begin fighting the entire town because they don't want this cyborg buried on a hill. So
just keep going. When writers talk about introducing stakes into stories, yeah, it's just like, what is at stake here? So, and Han is really putting his life on the line for a sack of coins. Who knows how much that's worth?
but it's a whole sack, John.
I don't know, Chewie. We could do a lot with that sack full.
I do want to talk about this next page and these middle two panels where Han's been dragged off the Bantha, quote unquote, and now we have a long inner monologue as an axe is being swung at him.
Yeah, and by a guy with weird, like, noodly arms that are like, what are these things? They're like bendy straw arms.
If I didn't know any better, I would say he looks like a cyborg.
I'm just gonna keep piling this on so nobody notices me. Yeah, we're to say that's organically his race.
Who knows?
Born this way.
What I want to focus on is this long inner dialogue that Han has with himself, trying to figure out whether or not he's willing to kill somebody. And the fact that we're still in an era in which Han has always shot first makes this torturous to me.
I know. So far, so good. They're mad, but they're not killers. And as long as they don't try anything lethal, there's still a chance we can... Whoops, looks like I spoke too soon. Oh! By the way, my favorite line, there's one in every crowd. And by that, he means murderer. No way I can dodge that. The Kurdian battle axe. So you die now!
So I don't have a choice. And he opens fire, and Chewie immediately takes that as the opening starting pistol to start a murdering.
Well, because then it appears Chewie is just blasting crowdfuls of people, vaporizing them with his frizz ray.
Because, we go to the next page, and it is just Han and Chewie back-to-back firing indiscriminately into a crowd.
Once one person took lethal axe against Han Solo, he's like, oh, it's on, buddy. We're killing this whole town. Okay, Chewie, these space-happy clowns started this clam bake. Clam bake!
Yeah. He might as well have said Donnybrook.
You should have, really. And they murder, what, 20, 30 people here, presumably?
I'm going to count the bodies here. So there's one on that first page before, 2, 3, there's 4, 5, and let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, let's call it an even dozen over the next couple of pages.
Just Han Solo and Chewbacca, mass murderers. That's what we love about them, right? But this last panel, what's going on with the guns and what is going on with Han's head?
I don't know. His hair has again changed radically. His facial structure has changed. He's suddenly wearing a jacket. I don't know.
Whoop, that's his costume from Empire. Sorry.
Yeah.
And once again, look at Chewbacca over here in the corner. That's not Chewbacca.
What's interesting is Chewbacca in the middle panel here looks like some of the original prototype art for the Chewbacca designs.
He does, yeah. I still wonder if they're looking at some of that McQuarrie art.
Yeah, no, it absolutely looks like some of the McQuarrie art that would later, of course, be used to design Zeb from Star Wars Rebels.
Yes, and I do wonder if that's still some of the reference that Jaken has.
It's so tough to say, considering how often the art and design changes from panel to panel.
That's the thing. If he was consistently looking like that, then I would say for sure. But he's all over the place. And so is Han. Han is a human and he's all over them. They can't get a design because then let's go to the next page and geez, boy, that is such a weathered looking Han Solo in that second panel.
Yeah, and again, his hair has changed, and so all the townsfolk run away after a dozen of them have been murdered.
That's right, folks. Look upon your dead and see what you get.
Fucking grim.
And I love Han Solo being a quick draw guy who will shoot first, but I don't need him and Chewie destroying an entire town of people. And just like, I just love the idea of, well, one of you tried to murder me, so now you all get it.
Well, the idea that he only kept killing so long as the crowd was around him. It's only after they give flight that he stops. At least he doesn't shoot anybody fleeing in the back.
Like we know, we know, yeah. Like if these people run, if he was just like, oh, I don't think so. No
Yeah.
witness, Chewie.
Han, no witnesses, Solo.
Well, Chewbacca, I also love Chewbacca, I don't take as like a vicious, like crazed animal. I mean, he certainly can wreck a dude, but just the idea they talk about at the sign of first blood, his nature takes over. He just goes insane. He just goes off, baby.
To be fair, the characterization we've seen of Chewbacca in these comics specifically has been one of a crazed beast that is only tempered by the conscience of Han Solo.
So once Han Solo loses his conscience, Chewie is just a killing machine.
There is this line earlier where in the previous page we have a line of captioning that says a 7-foot anthropoid who hails from a world where violence is such an everyday occurrence that there is 15 separate words in the Wookiee vocabulary for it. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the Wookiees are pretty intense, but they're not. I mean, this makes it seem like, oh, they're just feasting on blood and organs every night.
We'll later establish that the Wookiees are actually like a genuinely peaceful people that try to coexist with nature and have like a tree houses where they live, and it's all very nice. And that will be established, God help me, in the Star Wars Christmas special.
True, they're such lovely people, even if his father has a porn addiction.
Well, look, we all have our issues, John.
Ugh. Yeah. Be gone, defilers of the sacred way, says this. By the way, is this priest murdering too?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's actually, according to the onomatopoeia, he is smiting this man.
Smite with a Y, but yes.
Weird, but still, that word is smite.
I do like a good smite now and then.
Anyway, so there you go. And then more dialogue as people run away, but I like that Han's like, oh no, keep your gun out, Chewie. We don't know when we may have to kill again.
But as the bug priest says, violence ever begets violence, Outworlder. As my holy book says, for every sin there is an equal and positive retribution.
So is his holy book just the laws of physics?
I would take that as a holy book more than most other holy texts I'm aware of.
Like, he basically says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right?
Right. And we find out the reason he says that is because, another animal completely separate from the other two we've seen on different art on the next page is dead.
Can I talk about the fact this animal bleeding from its nose? This is a, hey, I got kids here kind of moment.
Mm-hmm. This poor bantha has been shot in the melee.
Yeah. Also, apparently Chewie might have smoked a doobie here based on that look I'm getting in that panel. Look at him going, oh.
Oh, he's just very unimpressed with the whole situation. You know, Chewie doesn't want to be here, and he especially doesn't want to be here when Han convinces him to carry the cyborg coffin on his shoulders.
Oh, I do like that moment. And actually, of anything in this issue, this feels the most like the Han and Chewie relationship from the movies. Is him going, hey man, what? You know, I gotta. When he says later, he's got somebody's got to hold up the rear. Like, I don't know.
Also, though, we do get a bit of dialogue here. That's it, old chum. Don't drop it now. Show a little respect. Yes, I know I'm not the one who has to carry it up the hill.
Quickly, Chewie, to the Falcon. We haven't one moment to lose. Yeah, it is.
And anytime Han says old chum, I'm just like, ugh, guys, come on.
I know there's only one movie, but how about paying any attention to how the character talks in it? Yeah.
Also, I do love the stating the obvious when the insect priest says, "And the Borg is far heavier than a human because he's half metal."
Yeah. Do you follow?
Do you
Are
get
you
it?
getting? Hey, readers, are you getting this? This guy's part robot. I don't know if you're figuring this out. We don't want to lose anybody here. And then so they do that, and phew, that was thirsty work.
Yeah, I like how we wrap this whole thing up in 3 panels, basically, in this next page, where Chewie lugs him up the hill, they says some rites to the space gods, and yep, space gods.
And then Han and Chewie come in to this cantina because Star Wars can't resist a cantina scene. Although these women in here look like extras from a different Harrison Ford movie, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Particularly that one with the sunglasses, but that big hat too. This looks very 80s to me, actually, which is interesting because it's 78. But also they goes like, "Hey, we're gonna buy a round for the bar." Well, geez, Han, aren't you a little strapped for cash?
I was gonna say, all they have is a pouch full of coins that were taken off of a dead cyborg, and now we're buying rounds for the whole cantina.
And also, we like really need to scrape together some cash because somebody's gonna murder us. And let's draw some attention to ourselves as big spenders. Oh, great. And Chewie likes what he sees on this lady because he goes, Chinook.
You know, that old Wookiee sound of attraction, Chinook.
Can I say my favorite character in this, though, is this purple guy who's getting his drink on?
Oh, he's just pouring it down the hatch like it's a funnel. But the fact that we have the burial of this cyborg, the last frame of which is this bug priest saying that, like, "Farewell, spacer, may I never see you again," and then we cut to sexy ladies in a bar, all on the same page, feels so tonally out of whack.
Yeah, it's this thing, and think about not that long ago we were being robbed by space pirates. This issue is all over the place, man.
Yeah. So we bury the cyborg, we go to the cantina, we see some sexy ladies, we buy a round for everybody, and then we get to the next page, and the last page, in which Han is chatting up some blue lady, because it wouldn't be a space thing if we weren't chatting up a blue lady.
What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? Good God, Han. I mean, just talk about working on your lines, man.
So, hold on. The line here is, "What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this, dash dash, I hope." What?
What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this, I hope? I have no idea. That doesn't track to me at all.
No, the dialogue here, yeah, it seems like it was rewritten at some point.
Yeah, why don't we take a walk and swap life stories, Star Hopper? You tell me yours and I'll tell you mine. Oh, that's as much as we can say about sex in a Marvel comic.
Why not? After all, who knows? Some of it may even turn out to be true. Aha, Han
And
Solo.
then, best panel, Chewie about to have a three-way, right?
Because Han turns back over his shoulder and says, "You a key hero by your lonesome, Chewie?" Cut to Chewie, arms over the shoulders of 2 ladies, one of which looks like a weird sci-fi fairy princess, and the other one looks like...
Yeah! That's a horrible design.
With the tall hat with the ribbon coming off of it and the stars on her legs, and then the other one looks like... I'm just gonna say it.
It's... Well, no, go ahead.
She looks like a condom.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it looks like a pop star at the time, Grace Jones, in one of her outrageous costumes from her performances.
Her dome-like hat has a reservoir tip, John.
Why do you think Chewie's got that look on his face?
He's got a grunk on, that's for sure.
Also, I don't think we don't see Chewie attracted to like humanoid women in anything. It's weird.
Look, but the ladies love a Chewbacca, if you know what I mean.
That's what I mean. It's just like...
Is it true what they say about Wookiees?
Yeah, that I will literally kill you in bed. That there's nothing about our body types that in any way will go together. Yeah, great. And then all of a sudden, these guys who come in.
The Asian stereotypes as they're drawn on this last panel?
Yeah, well, at least two of them. I don't know about that last guy. It's like Chaykin forgot to make the other guy Asian enough.
Well, the
But
guy on the right there looks like an illustrated drawing from a medieval tapestry or something.
but they're coming in, and there is no way not to, because of how they look, not to read this dialogue as just horrific Asian like accent, right?
Yeah.
A most agreeable proposal, we assure you. Like that too. Also, and Han. Oh, something I hate in a comic book is the word bubble with just the big question mark. Like that is what.
I think it's always the way I always read that is the sound.
Yeah, I think so. Next issue: Trouble in Paradise.
Yeah, well, paradise. After he murdered half the town so he could bury a dead cyborg.
Yeah. Almost paradise.
Because yeah, these three guys accost Han on his way out the door with the blue lady and says, "We have a proposition to put forth to you, honored offworlder." And yeah, it really does read like stereotypical.
I was listening to, like, you have to read it in the most flat voice because even just reading the dialogue, you start to head into some troublesome accent.
It is a most agreeable proposal we offer you, unless, of course, you have an unfortunate aversion to dying.
Meet my uncle, Charlie Chan.
Oh boy, yeah.
And that's where we leave it. What a cliffhanger! I can't wait to buy the next issue.
We're in new uncharted territory here, John. We're off on a strange new world with Han and Chewie getting into some trouble, killing villagers, burying cyborgs, and offering to buy rounds of drinks in cantinas where they're trying to keep a low profile. You know, all the classics.
Han Solo is my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and even I am like, can we get back to some other people? This is pretty weak, man. Well, also, as we talk about, he doesn't talk or act like Han Solo at all. So,
yeah, he is Flash Gordon, basically.
Yeah, he basically is. So, issue 7, man. I feel like this is going to be a long podcast.
But John, next issue,
I
we have the arrival of everyone's giant green Lepus carnivorous. Jackson is here.
Jackson!
Prepare to be underwhelmed.
Yeah, prepare for him to completely ruin everything about Star Wars, actually. Yeah, so, well, of course, we want people to make sure they like and subscribe on whatever software they're using, including if you're watching us on YouTube, then
yes, indeed.
Be sure to hit that bell for notifications.
And if you are listening to the podcast version of this, maybe go check out the YouTube, because while I know we try to describe this the best we can, if you're watching the YouTube version, you can actually see the pages we're talking about as we display it on the screen, which is always useful when we're talking about a visual medium.
Yes, that is that was why we decided to make this our first video podcast. And of course, if you want more exclusive content from Punch Up Entertainment, you can go to our Podbean patron page, which is patron.podbean.com/punchup.
Absolutely. And of course, there you can find all sorts of bonus material from all the other shows of the Punch Up Entertainment Network, including Material Components, Panel Up, as well as Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, a show that has just recently launched on its free feed. But if you go to our Patreon page, you can get, 3 seasons are already done on there?
And for every first season episode that comes on the free feed, that week also drops the corresponding episode of season 4. So we're already into season 4. On the patron page. So that's where you get us into, that crazy decade we call the 1980s, baby.
Ooh, the 80s was a rough time for some of the Universal monsters.
It was a golden age of werewolf movies. There were so many movies in the 80s. So, check out all that. But, I think...
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, join us next time for issue number 8. As always, Jackson is here, and I am Mike Gergoni.
I'm John Campbell.
Until next time, may the panel be with you.